everybody and welcome to the planning committee, or your planning committee. First of all, minutes. Is it your wish I sign the members as the correct record?
Yes, agreed.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Apologies, Clark.
Councillor Rivers-Brock, Councillor Daventry, Councillor Martin.
And there's another two missing. Anybody know about the other two? Councillor Robertson and who's the one? Councillor Organ. Oh, okay. Well, they turn up, Declarations of interests? Any? No, don't forget you can do when you come to it if you see anything. No party whipping arrangements.
None.
Members of the public, that means we don't get together as political people and decide how you're going to vote beforehand. Next is Councillor Orgaz arrived. If you haven't missed anything yet, don't worry. Planning application withdrawn, deferred or determined under delegated powers. The application on the agenda tonight at Malton has been refused under delegated powers. It was already up for recommendation for refusal. It has been delegated. Just a few bits of housekeeping, which I'm sure you've all heard it before. Fire alarm bell rings, it's not a practice. So please go out the way you come in as orderly as possible. Please switch your mobile devices to silent. If they go off, if it makes a pretty noise, it's £10. If it's an awful noise, it's £5. And the chairman's here to collect your money. It goes to the charity, so switch them off, please, unless you've got plenty of money. The proceedings are being recorded, audio-wise. Speakers will have 3 minutes. After that, you'll hear a tone and be asked to wind up. And that will be the only opportunity you have to speak. So please say if you don't interrupt during the rest of it. I suppose you're not going to clap, hiss, boo, cheer and wave your arms, but please don't. You'll see officers talking at the same time as perhaps you're talking, which will talk you bad manners, trying to get an answer to the point you're making when you're speaking so that the meeting can carry on. I think that concludes the housekeeping. So we should go straight to the first application, which is in Barley, and it's 0013.
Thank you, Chairman. The application sites are lovely L-shaped sites. The ground levels are reasonably level within the site, however, they do drop slightly from south to north and from centre line eastwards as well. There are a number of mature trees on the boundaries of the site, particularly along the southern and western boundaries, and the eastern boundary there's properties which are bounded with an overgrown hedgerow that backs onto Brackendale Drive. You'll see from the report that there was an outline application approved back in 2015, and that outline application sought approval for both the siting and the access to proposed dwellings. The application before members tonight seeks consent for the scale, appearance and landscaping. This is the scale, appearance and landscape for the 6 dwellings which was approved on the outline. You'll see also from the report that there are a number of concerns raised by the parish council and from neighbours. These relate primarily to plots 1 and 2 and to drainage concerns as well. The report advises that the properties are in excess of 22 metres from the properties of Brackendale Drive, and that together with the intention of screening is considered sufficient distance between properties, and thus any potential proposed overlooking would be limited. In regards to the drainage, you'll also see from the report that we've sought advice from our own drainage engineers, and whilst there is currently a drainage problem, it's perceived that any proposed drainage would actually in fact assist in alleviating those existing concerns. based on that, Chairman, we recommend the application be approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuck. We have a speaker. Ms Cavalier is against the application.
Ready?
Yes. You've got 3 minutes from when you start.
Go. Residents of Barby choose to live there because of the village surround and rural feel. Only recently, seemingly in support of this fact, the District Council refused permission to build a porch on the front of the place in Daventry Road. This application had been supported by the Parish Council and no objection was lodged. However, the District Council felt it was not sympathetic to its locality. However, this application is on the very same road upon which this development will have its only access. The build site is elevated in relation to existing houses situated along the eastern boundary. This is a matter which cannot be fully appreciated on paper. On paper, this scheme looks to be acceptable. However, upon inspection, the difference in level can clearly be seen. If you look from the outside of the boundaries inwards. This difference in level is only compounded when looking in conjunction with other issues. Drainage over the last 20 years during periods of heavy or persistent rainfall, the back gardens of Brackendale Drive have been prone to waterlogging. To illustrate this point, I include 3 photographs taken in May of this year showing the rear garden of Brackendale Drive, which I believe illustrates this point and impresses the need to ensure that a proven and suitable scheme of drainage is registered. Although there is a condition attached to the outline permission, this is an issue that, if not planned and executed correctly, could potentially cause damage to existing properties. Would it not be advantageous to have a clear drainage strategy submitted with the application to be considered in advance of the decision being made? At present, it seems the drainage concerns have been addressed to the detriment of overall height. The roof of the proposed building in Plot 2 has been reorientated in an attempt to reduce height, but any reduction has been lost as the floor level has been increased. Is this acceptable? The orientation of existing houses bordering the site on Brackendale Drive is east to west, front to back, which means the rear of the properties do not receive early morning direct light but do benefit from direct light in the afternoon. However, the addition of the proposed property to Plot 2, shown as the pink square on the pictures on the second submission there, which has a side elevation 5 metres from the boundary fence of 53 Brackendale Drive and a height of 7.2 metres to ridge plus the roof, will block out the direct afternoon light, raising genuine and undeniable concerns of overshadowing. The second photograph clearly shows the position of the sun at 1500 on the 26th of October. The height of the sun can clearly be seen, and this again demonstrates how the height of the proposed property on Plot 2 will completely block access to direct light and cast a shadow over existing houses, meaning during the winter the ground will have little opportunity to dry, rendering it unusable, and in the summer it will be left in the shadows. This constitutes a loss of amenity to an unacceptable level. Would a more suitable option not be to limit the height of construction to a single level? The third and final picture clarifies the point to show where the sun rises and sets, again clearly demonstrating the very real concern of overshadowing and associated issues.
Thank you. Local member, Councillor Lowndes.
Thank you, Chairman. Members, the principle of development is established. I can't see into the mind of Enfield Holdings, but I worry that the outstanding planning application, which is waiting in the wings, disturbingly, is a smaller development which doesn't require affordable housing. Against this development, as you have heard, are the issues of floor heights and overshadowing, unsatisfactory drainage, outstanding highway matters, lack of archaeological investigation required by NCC archaeology. And you will note on page 25 the list of conditions still to be addressed, also a matter of concern given the time that the developers had to do this. Nor is there any reference in the conditions to the question of the proper and effective disposal of surface water. Parts of property, including Daventry Road, have suffered and still do suffer from inadequate drainage and the condition should be added to cover this. I would like to ask you to refuse this application, and I don't think that's possible, but further conditions most certainly should be added to address the unsatisfactory outstanding issues. It certainly doesn't feel right as it stands. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Arnett. Councillors?
I find that second photograph interesting with the sun there, and it's actually peeking through the trees, as you can see at this time of year. Do we have any idea of whereabouts the outlines of the houses would be in relation to that? Because it seems like you've got quite a screen there already.
John, do you know?
Yeah,
Can I?
sorry, I think through chairman, I don't think you can speak anymore unless invited by the chairman. Through you, chairman, thank you. Just to advise that there is some trees there. What we do appreciate is that this application the outline itself was approved in a different climate where we didn't have a 5-year land supply. And as such, under normal circumstances, now in a position we do have a 5-year land supply, we probably wouldn't be steered down the same route. So I do sympathise with the speaker tonight to an extent. However, the site itself does benefit from an outline planning consent, and in approving that outline planning consent, we approve not just the actual site but the dwellings as well. So in terms of the position of the dwellings, they wouldn't have altered at all from the outline, and that's not something which is up for consideration tonight.
Mr. Chairman, may I have a moment?
No, you may not. Any other councillors? Councillor Orban.
Yeah, just 2 points. There just seems to be, Councillor Lomax mentioned it and also referenced it in comments from the parish about affordable housing. On page 21, it lays down here, affordable housing as an element of development, this still remains live. What are the circumstances? Why is there some doubt that the affordable housing won't be provided?
It's not clear to me why there is doubt. Fundamentally, on the outline application, condition 13 referred to the provision of affordable housing provision. The applicants haven't sought to remove that condition or appeal that condition or sought to apply to vary it at all. So from my officer's opinion, until such time it occurs, the provision of affordable housing is still extant.
Can I ask another question then? In the case of affordable housing not being provided, does that have to come back before this committee?
Certainly, because that forms part of the outline conditions.
And the only other issue that I saw here was there is some genuine concern about flooding. Presumably, if the development doesn't satisfy us with regard to the risk of flooding, then they wouldn't be allowed to go ahead.
On the outline again, there is already a condition, it's a pre-commencement condition. So before works can even start, there'll be necessity for the applicants to provide a surface drainage strategy, which will be subject to consultation with the relevant statutory consultees to ensure that there is a sufficient drainage system in place. What you always have to remember is that this application isn't here to address existing drainage issues. It's just to ensure that it doesn't add to those drainage issues.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Leslie.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Councillor Orban has covered one of my points, which was the drainage, which obviously from the pictures is a concern. Obviously it may get better, but there is a danger that it may get worse, and if that condition is there and will be acted upon, then I'm happy with that. What I do find a little bit strange is that this application, you say, came through and there wasn't a 5-year land supply, so may have been viewed slightly differently when it arrived at the table here. By that I take it you mean that it would have probably been recommended for refusal.
If I could just clarify, the site itself obviously is not considered to be inside the confines of the village in terms of it wasn't part of the main built-up area. In the conditions of the previous climate, where we didn't have a 5-year land supply, we had to consider sites which were on the edge of the village itself.
Okay, but bearing that in mind, it's sort of a bit of an exception. It's a bit of an exceptional case in as much as it perhaps wouldn't normally be there. But having said that, the planning permission would be right. I understand that, and I understand from what we've seen that the basic layout is in accordance with the outline. But does the outline specify any height or anything like that? Because it does seem that we have heard about it being slightly overbearing and taking light away. And bearing in mind how this has come about, it might be prudent to see if we can do anything at all about that in terms of heights. Because it will undoubtedly, it's always going to have an effect on people. You can't help that. It will always have an effect on people.
In terms of the outline application, there was no restrictions on the height itself, but on the outline application did indicate there were a lot more lights in two-story property.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. That's Reverend Swift.
Well, it was a mention of height, and I do think it has been answered, so I have nothing to add.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Eden.
Thank you. I did go and have a look at the site today. Went up and stood at the gates and had a look round, and also went round Brackendale Close to see what you could see from the site from there. You can't see much because of the houses, but there's a couple of places on the site where it does go down a little bit, but you really have to look at it to see that it isn't going down a lot. It's fairly flat. Goes down there where there's a ditch where the hedge is. But I understand that hedge is staying there, so there's no reason why that can't be railed off. I will ask, in connection with the draining that they're on about, the condition of the original one is quite substantial, and the conditions are being carried over onto this one. So, although it says the scheme's got to be put forward before they can start building, so surely they're going to have to solve that problem of that site, not the water that's there now. That should have been sorted out with the people who built those houses. Sorry. I do think you do need to keep the two affordable houses in. We do need them. There are a lot of big houses around there, but there's people that can't afford those big houses, and I think those two affordable ones need to stay there. I don't see a problem. I think with the conditions that we've got in here, they're pretty good. I looked at them from the other application, and I think this could go through all right.
Is that proposal or not?
I'll propose that we...
I'm not asking you to, it's up to you.
No, I'm quite willing to. I'll propose it before us officers advice on this.
Okay, do you have a second? Councillor, would you like to speak now, Councillor?
Nothing to urge.
Okay. Does anybody else wish to speak? Ah, yes. Councillor, sorry. Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. I'm looking at page 23, possibly HS 36. I'd be grateful if one of the officers could tell us a little bit just about what constitutes, how backland development would be defined. That paragraph then goes on in the paragraph C, stating that the design shall be of a high standard. But it goes on and refers to what is proposed as being not outstanding in design terms. If it's not outstanding in design terms as a requirement that the design should be of a high standard, why has this not therefore been put back to the developer to come back with something decent? My other question that comes up, over the page in the paragraph E at the top of page 24, it makes the point that so far the heights of the buildings were not specified originally. But it says the approved layout nevertheless strongly implies two-storey properties throughout. I crave for some understanding, what is it that makes that implication, that it is two-storey properties? I just don't understand how that comes about.
I'm sure the officer will answer those 2 points.
In fact, first of all, you had a couple of points there. Well, the first one was regard to why are we officers presenting this forward for approval when the design itself is not outstanding. Equally, at the same time, we have to take into consideration the character of the area itself. And in that respect, there are properties which border onto the site, which are equally, in our minds, of not outstanding architecture either. Certainly of their time, and we have to have regard to that. In regards to concerns as to why we feel that they were more clearly two-storey, that's based on the footprint of the dwellings themselves. A bungalow would normally occupy a much larger footprint on an outline application.
Okay? You come back.
I don't think I need to declare an interest, Chair, on the grounds that I live in Barbie, but nowhere near this particular development. But that argument sounded a little bit, well, Barbie is actually rather second-rate and grotty, therefore it doesn't matter if we have all more grotty houses there.
No, I don't think you...
That's absolutely not the case, Chair.
No.
Through you, Chairman, I certainly did not imply that.
No, and it definitely isn't Council Ridge. It's a lovely village, far more pretty than my own, but my own is pretty as well. Right, next, anybody else wish to speak? If not, we have a proposal the application be approved and it's been seconded. All those in favour, please show.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Those against? I think that's the whole committee. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That's unanimous that the application was approved. Yes. All those do. The next application is in Weedon and it's 0484.
Thank you, Chairman. Members will be familiar with this application site as it came before committee on the 12th of September. So therefore I don't propose to go into the details in terms of its location, other than to say that the application itself is an outline application and it's for the construction of 47 dwellings. Members will recall that following the 12th of September planning committee, members sought to defer the application to allow exceptional circumstances to be presented to committee. And following that committee, the agent has submitted additional information to try and address this concern. The agent has submitted an assessment of the likely impact, both positive and negative, of the proposal, with evidence just gathered from the current social and economic sustainability of which and set together this policy. The report proceeds to consider what constitutes essential services, what threats may exist in local services, and whether the development is required to support the retention or the improvement to these services which are considered to be under threat. In terms of potential threats, an assessment has been made regarding sustainability of the village and material factors. It's included that and the number of threats to the services which are both singular and cumulative, and these are set out within page 42 of the report. Separately, the report also considers the social and economic benefits which will accrue from the proposed development. Overall, officers are satisfied the application has addressed some of the housing needs issue. However, we don't feel that evidence provided does demonstrate its compliance with policy R1. Potential threats to business activities set out within the report are generalised and subjective, and therefore we don't feel it's considered sufficient evidence to be demonstrated that they are threat, and no evidence presented about a decline in trading. There is a high degree of uncertainty that the additional housing will have any effect on the local businesses that would justify the proposal. Not all of the local businesses respond to the questionnaires in the report. It's considered to be essential. In fact, only Tesco's Express office is considered to be an essential business itself. And as the bypass has not yet been completed, the impact of the change of the routing of traffic at this stage is unknown. Three of the retailers who took part in the survey are very much specialist retailers who are not reliant on parking trade. And those remaining retailers which did take part would have a very regular base customers. These were things like the Takeaway and Tesco's Express. Officers are disappointed. We feel that including that, no evidence is presented to indicate the primary school or the GP service is under threat. And taking all this into account, we feel that there's insufficient evidence being submitted to demonstrate that this development itself is necessary in order to help improve or sustain a service under threat. We do feel disappointed because we feel that officers and members gave a clear steer to the applicant in the previous committee. We drew attention in particular to part 2 of our local plan, which whilst at the current stage doesn't carry significant weight, it still remains material consideration. And we did draw attention to the exceptional circumstances which were cited in that. Equally, communication between the applicant and the case officer has set out further exceptional circumstances which we feel can be addressed by this proposal, and that again has not been taken up by the applicant. So, based on the current information we have to date, officers don't feel that we can support the application. We do feel there is a way forward for this proposal, not under the current application. And as such, we are recommending the application be refused for reasons set out in the report, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. We have 2 speakers. First of all, Mr. Hanshaw from the Parish Council.
I speak for Weedon-Beck residents and the Parish Council. Our Halloween treat tonight would be for you to vote to support this application. Since I last spoke, the Parish Council followed up the advice given in this room by the case officer and asked about how to achieve a variation in the village curtilage boundary to include this development. We were told very firmly by the district's strategic planners that we stood no chance of getting the boundary changed as part 2 of the local plan consultation, so the Parish Council reluctantly decided not to proceed for fear that refusal would create a precedent for this or any other application. Since I last spoke, we've become aware of more threats to the economy of the High Street. The big antique shop on the north side is scheduled for closure. It's a property with a big frontage, which will leave a very obvious gap, giving a poor impression of the locality and the wider Daventry district. It will take a brave entrepreneur to fill that gap, since your council designated the High Street a conservation area in October 2018, making the cost of repurposing even higher. By conducting our own local surveys, the Parish Council keeps abreast of what Weedon wants in our community. People want to live in Weedon, but they can't find the sort of property they need at an affordable price. Young couples and families with both partners working want to be near grandparents, who in turn want to downsize and not unreasonably would prefer a bungalow. We want new life in our village to boost local services. Otherwise, we will not continue as a primary service village, but will become a retirement community. The profile of affordable housing the applicant is offering will facilitate this happening and show that the High Street is fighting back and improving social cohesion of Road Weedon. We suggest that the officer recommendation for refusal is based on questionable evidence. The Housing Needs Survey for Weedon has a poor evidence base at the best of times, and it's now agreed to be out of date. The rural housing quota figure, which is highly speculative for Weedon, because we know of several small developments included in that figure, won't be completed in the next 10 years, and none of them is big enough to include affordable housing. Weedon has needed affordable housing for some time. This is clearly evidenced by the more up-to-date advice of your own officers about affordable housing studies. The National Planning Policy Framework requires housing development to be responsive to local needs. You, our elected representatives, can demonstrate your understanding of your local community by being responsive to local need and voting to support this application.
Thank you. The second speaker is Mr. Hatcher, who's the applicant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Planning Committee. Following deferment at the September Planning Committee, we have submitted further information on affordable housing to address concerns raised by members and further evidence to demonstrate how the proposed development will help support local services that may be under threat once the new bypass opens later this year. In terms of affordable housing, members ask for more certainty that the type of affordable housing provided could meet identified needs. We therefore engaged with the Council's Affordable Housing Officer, who confirmed there are currently 53 households on the waiting list seeking affordable homes within Weedon, the majority needing smaller 1 and 2 bed properties. This evidence informed a draft planning condition that we are happy to be imposed on the Commission if granted, and has been agreed with both the Affordable Housing Officer and the Parish Council. This proposes 8 1-bed flats, 4 2-bed bungalows, 4 2-bed houses and 3 3-bed houses. The Affordable Housing Officer has particularly welcomed the 4 2-bed bungalows, as 10 of the 53 households on the register are over 60 years old. The proposed planning condition is based on a template condition regularly used by the planning inspectorate and is therefore reasonable, precise and enforceable. It is agreeable to the applicant, the Affordable Housing Officer and the Parish Council, and will ensure that the affordable housing most needed by the local community will be delivered. Turning to the second matter, we have heard from both the Parish Council and previously the local board member first-hand knowledge of the real and ongoing threats to the vitality and viability of this important service village, and we should not only service its residents but those in the surrounding area. We have also supplied letters of support from a range of local businesses, including Tesco, which highlight their concerns about loss of passing trade once the bypass opens. It's clearly evident that the local community welcome the proposed housing because of the many positive economic and social benefits it will bring to Weedon, as detailed within the officer's report. This is further evidenced by the fact that there is absolutely no objections from residents, which is quite unprecedented. From the outset of this project, I can honestly say that local people have recognised the genuine benefits of the scheme, especially in providing smaller, affordable housing so that their children can get on the housing ladder and stay in the local area. The proposed development has attracted no objections from statutory consultees and is technically compliant with policy. All financial contributions to be secured through Section 106 and SIL are acceptable to the applicant, and as is policy compliant, 35% affordable housing. In conclusion, there is no doubt in my mind that this development is fully compliant with both national and local planning policy, and the circumstances arising are unique and will not set an undesirable precedent elsewhere. As such, I respectfully request that members support this proposal and grant planning permission. More than happy to answer any questions that members may have. Thank you.
Thank you. I must say, as your chairman, that I expected this application to come back and to gain complete support from everybody. But I see it still doesn't have a local, current, up-to-date housing needs survey. Because somebody's on a waiting list, they can be on a waiting list in a dozen different villages, and not necessarily the need is for Weedon people, because people on the waiting list in Weedon may not want, it might be their third choice, fourth choice in Weedon. So I expected to see a current housing needs survey, and there isn't one. And I expected to see perhaps, I don't know, we might have wanted another football pitch perhaps, and they could have said, well, the land next to it, we could provide the local community with a football pitch. So perhaps if we'd have seen something like that, or I'm saying this as myself, if I'd have seen something like that, I would have been very, very keen to support it, but I haven't seen something like that. So that's just my comments before we get to members. I know an officer wants to make a comment. Karen?
Yes, I do want to remind members that the percentage of affordable housing provided in this scheme is not exceptional. It's what should be delivered if we were to approve the scheme anyway. So don't take that as an exceptional circumstance. an exceptional circumstance would be a much higher level than required, or to have a mix of affordable plus sub-market housing to help deliver the affordable housing. So I do feel disappointed. I do want to draw members' attention to the local plan. As officers, we sat here together with members and we drew significant attention to the local plan. And if I take members to a particular chapter, and that says taking forward policy R1, there may be scope for development outside the confines of the village, but only exceptional circumstances. Typically, these would be where the development provided will clearly meet an identified local need for housing that would need to be identified through an up-to-date housing needs survey carried out by the Daventry District Council. The current housing needs survey is out of date, and should we look to try and impose a condition to secure the level of housing, that condition could be appealed, and without an up-to-date housing needs survey to support that, I'm not sure what ground rules that would have to stand on.
Thank you. Councillor Swift.
Yes, in September we had a very long debate about that, and I have to declare an interest. I went to Weedon and I bought our daughter a wedding dress in Weedon. So I know the village, I went through the high street, I parked and so on, and I know the antique shop because I stop there from time to time. But where I tend to agree with the officer, I'm very disappointed because we did try to help the village and the applicant. And what I see in front of me today doesn't give me more reassurance that I had a month and a half ago. For me, we had a clear view. It was against policy in September. I don't have any more evidence that is not against policy today. And with that, we cannot. Now, it's not that we say no. We want the developer to be a bit more proactive, to engage more, to give more to the village and to secure more housing that are, as our officer said, affordable. And so if the applicants come back with, and maybe not an outline application, but a full application, so we know what we accept and why, we can make an exception, because at the moment what is in front of us, if I understand correctly, we are still against R1, and therefore I propose that we go with officer advice.
Thank you. Do you have a secretary for staff? Councillor Edmund. Would you like to speak now, Councillor Edmund, or reserve your right?
Can I reserve the right to amend, please?
You can indeed. Just put your hand up and you'll be able to speak next time. Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you. Councillor Swift has just said that we did try to help. Did we?
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
Your chair have stated that you'd have liked to have seen other things in the application. I wonder to what extent this committee, or the officers acting on its behalf, actually should have taken the steps to make sure that we were given that information. We're saying that we don't like the application because of things it doesn't contain. I myself have got to say I wouldn't be totally convinced by some of the economic arguments that are put here. There's an element of speculation about it. But I just feel that we are responding to this in a rather bureaucratic way. I feel with this application, the fact that the village, the parish council supports it and wants it, the fact that people in the Weedon see a need for it, surely puts us in a slightly different position. Of course, we have got to stick by policy, and we have got to look for ways. If we think that the policy has been drawn in a way that is restrictive, we have got to try to look for solutions. But we should not simply leave it to the applicant to try to come up with solutions that we feel would be sensible and would be justifiable. We've heard that, yes, that it of course is true that the provision of affordable housing that is being offered is not exceptional. It is just what we require. But it's been pointed out, we only have that requirement on developments above a certain size, and it is very rare that village developments actually therefore have any provision for affordable housing. I just feel that there's a great deal of negativity with this. I see that here we have a village that sees that there is an opportunity for doing something. Of course, there are people who may be homeless and living in Wheaton that don't want to live in Wheaton. Of course, that is the case. But I think we've got to assume that there are a lot of people who want homes that they can afford either to buy or to rent in Wheaton. And at the moment, that is exceptionally difficult for them. I just feel that here we have got something that the local community wants. There is no argument that it is defacing the character of Wheaton in any sense. It's a very self-contained site. It's doing something for the village, and I just don't understand why we are trying to make this so difficult.
Thank you, Chairman. I just need to reiterate, this is not, and there is a big problem with R1 with this application. It is development in the open countryside, and you would only allow development in that circumstance if you've got genuinely exceptional circumstances. So it's very much contrary to policy. That is still the advice this time as it was last time. It's not for the council to make the parishes or the applicant's case. We've pointed them in the right direction, but ultimately it's up to them to clearly demonstrate that there are exceptional reasons to agree this despite it being contrary to policy. So you could make an argument, if this was an exception site, for example, where there was a significantly higher proportion of affordable housing and linked into a housing needs survey, then that might be like a village exception site, or if there was some other benefit to provide a significant community benefit as a consequence, as part of this application. The DDC, I understand, I'm sure John will correct me, that the local strategy team would support the parish or the applicant in doing an update housing needs survey, but I believe that is something that's been declined up to this point. But we don't do a rolling programme of housing needs surveys anymore. They are very much about us supporting others to do those.
Right, Councillor Organ.
Can I just bottom that one out? So are you saying that the way forward is to have an up-to-date housing needs, and so why can't we defer to do that? We need that. Why don't we get it done?
Just for clarification, Councillor Organ, this policy team, who are different elements of planning, have extended the hand to assist in providing that up-to-date housing needs survey. But to do so, they have to have assistance from parish councils. So they've extended that service, but that service has not been taken on board. It's not true. That's advice I've been given, that a housing needs housing needs survey has been offered, but it was declined.
Chair, we've got that. That's really quite crucial. I wondered if you would invite the parish council to find out whether that's true or not.
So you're saying that's not true, madam?
No, we've never declined a decent housing needs survey.
Well,
We've questioned the quality of what is often provided. We've never declined the offer to have a decent housing needs survey.
well,
Some of the officers are more than willing to take on this housing needs survey. I think from officers' point of view, we hear what members are saying, and we have to stress that this site is outside the confines of the village. So fundamentally, it is contrary to policy to allow this development without exceptional circumstances being demonstrated.
Mr. Chairman, could I answer?
no, I'm afraid you
As
can't.
officers, we're saying that we are clearly said to them there needs to be a demonstration which is set out, which is part to the local plan, which I read out to members tonight, which we feel is a clear steer as to what direction the applicant should take. That's not been taken on board. We've also, as officers, invited the applicants to consider other essential services which have been under threat. Other essential services being, for instance, Weedon has an extreme shortage of playing field pitches. I've noticed that on the location plan, that the area outlined in blue obviously indicates other land which is in the applicant's ownership. And fundamentally, another essential service could be the provision of playing field pitches. I'm not saying that's what they should do, but so that is an option for them to consider. So there is, and equally there is a neighbourhood plan if the parish council wants to resurrect and consider taking forward the neighbourhood plan again, having regard to the examiners before, then that equally is another route to consideration.
Can I give my thoughts on this? I think, well, you know, I try to go through and cross-reference the different policies on this, and I think some of it, to be honest, is subjective. It's about an opinion on whether you think it meets it or not. I think the best with regard to whether it supports or it doesn't support the economy is best unknown. I don't think we really know because of the evidence isn't particularly deep and etc. But what we do know is schools are under threat in the rural area. What we do know is local convenience stores are under threat in local areas. Local pubs are under threat in local areas, in rural areas, because of people not using the lack of people there. How is Weedon Beck ever going to get an opportunity to build its community and to sustain these unless they're allowed to have developments like this? And I draw you to page 29 at the bottom paragraph where it says, it is acknowledged that the scheme would bring benefits in terms of providing market housing and affordable housing, as well as benefits that would accrue, that they talk about still and 106. These associated public benefits identified in the report weigh in favour of the development. Then look about what the parish council want. You know, they want their communities to grow. They need more people. They believe their local amenities are under threat, and they specifically talk about the convenience store. We've heard another one today. It needs affordable housing. The people in Weedon Beck still need to live somewhere. You know, we talk at a government level how important it is to have housing, yet we tie ourselves up in bureaucracy and policy, and we forget the very thought that there are homeless people out there. There are people that want to live within their communities that can't afford to. And that is because these type of developments that are on the verge of policy, whether you believe it's for or against, we are turning down, and we turn them down time and time again all over the country. And we miss the point. We miss the point. We're trying to tick boxes instead of actually identifying the needs of the local community, which has been identified by the parish council and the residents, and we're not really providing it. This is my opinion, sir. Yeah, I need to give my...
The needs haven't been identified.
Well, they certainly have done with regard, if you listen, all we need to look at is that consultation, we look at page 30, where it says the needs of which were made clear in the housing survey of 2015.
It's out of date.
And is expressed frequently by residents.
It's out of date, and it clearly says it's got to be a current housing survey.
Again, it's ticking a box and it's bureaucracy. Are you telling me that there are not people in Weedon Beck that need affordable houses, that need houses still in that community?
Councillor, I'm sure there are, but do you know, without a housing needs survey, how many there are? Because I don't.
Well, where did this local need of 53
and that's all we're
come from?
asking for.
Where did this local need of 53 come from? There's 53.
I've got you, councillor, behind us, don't worry.
Because that was mentioned. Someone said there was a local need of 53.
It's 53
applications. Is that current?
For the waiting list.
Yes, through you, Chair, the waiting list, it literally is a moving feast on an hourly or daily basis.
But they are for 53 applications for the Weedon Beck area, so there's some.
Well, all you would be able to say is that they're current applicants in Weedon, you don't know if they're waiting for somewhere else or anything.
Well, I would suggest to my colleagues, we need to find a more positive way forward than this. We cannot allow this development to drop. And I won't vote that we totally dismiss this. We need to find a way, and whether that's we defer it again to have this survey put in place, or whatever we do, but to lose this opportunity, to lose this housing, affordable housing, to be able to build that community, I really don't believe colleagues will be doing our job here. And I just feel we're missing the point. We're missing the point about providing housing.
Through you, Chairman, if this application is refused as recommended by us today, the applicant gets a free resubmission to put a proper case together with really good evidence to prove that this is exceptional. It would, if we actually have an R1 approved site, in these circumstances, you can bet your bottom dollar that we'll have a whole queue of speculative applications from all over the district who will be citing that this site has been approved in less than exceptional
But how many times have we been told that every case is taken? You can't throw that back at us. Every case is taken on its own merits.
Right, okay, Councillor, we'll go to the next speaker now. Councillor Wesley next.
Thank you, Chair. I have to say, I pretty much agree entirely with what Councillor Orwell has just said. I really do. I think we've got a real difficult situation here. And I do respect policy, I do respect what our officers are telling us, and I do understand that they have to be guardians of what we've got in place. But this is exceptional in its own right. It's exceptional because the village actually want it. It's exceptional because it's not really hurting anybody. And we're talking about a policy that's put in place let's be honest, the policy is put in place in generality to actually do the job. There is no such thing as precedent because we're told that all the time. But my contention on this proposal is, on another day, we would have officers telling us that a development like this would be providing employment, would be providing people for local jobs, will be providing customers in shops and restaurants and pubs, and what a fine thing it was on another day if we were looking at it in a different place. And my suggestion would be, if this was a development in Daventry, we'd be pointing to the whole economic benefits of it. I really do believe that. We recently had the Part 2 consultation. We're having to build a set of housing estate on the side of Daventry, on the wrong side of the bypass, because there's nowhere else to put the houses in accordance with our policies. You know, that is plainly ridiculous. There's now an opportunity here for someone to build houses that wants them, and we're trying to make difficulties. Just on not making the case. It's really, really difficult to make a case when something hasn't happened. I mean, I actually almost commend the developers on this one for not making up outlandish stories, because it would have been so easy to do that. So easy to make up outlandish claims of how many people were going to go into shops and everything else. We all know that villages are in decline. We all know that, I think Weedon's in a special place as well. I mean, almost who wouldn't want to live in Weedon? It's got great communication links and it's just in the right place for people. Villages are crying out for houses. This offers those houses. But just to note, the bypass situation. Of course we don't know what the traffic flows are going to be like without the bypass being used. But surely the whole point of the bypass is to take traffic out of Weedon. If it ain't going to do that, why the hell did we chuck a load of money at it? If we didn't know that, surely the reasoning for the bypass is to take traffic out of Weedon. If we didn't know it was going to do that, why are we building it? Why are we building it? Sorry, I mean, that just on its own is a fatuous argument. And I think there is enough case in there for us subjectively, and I grant it is subjectively, to say that this is a special case, because we're subjectively saying it's not, and that's my view.
Thank you. Councillor James.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Well, I'd like to say that I agree with everything the applicant said, everything the parish council said, everything that Councillor August has said, everything that Councillor Wesley has said, and also, and it's not just because it's Halloween tonight, I agree with what Councillor Richard said too.
But you're not going to repeat it, are you?
At the last meeting I said I was happy to propose that this development be approved, and I'm happy to do so again this evening. I've seen Weedon over a lifetime, and I've seen it decline. There used to be several small shops in Weedon, long since gone, including my old news agent, Mr. Forsgate, around the back there, and he took the shop in Everton when he passed on, which is a great pity. And there are other villages close by that have also lost shops. And Wheaton once had a little cinema too, as well as a very lively community when the barracks were open. This is a golden opportunity now to rejuvenate these. And my goodness, the High Street is long overdue for a rejuvenation. And the addition of these houses would help in that regard. I really do think that this is the case. The village want the houses, because they perceive there to be a housing need. Now, they may not have produced empirical evidence of that, but we do know on both a national scale and on a district scale, and certainly when and if and when we become a unitary authority, there's going to be an even bigger general housing need. And that, after all, we don't be acting in accordance with the National Planning Policy framework on housing need. It's inevitable that this side will be governed one day. So I think we may as well bite the bullet now, make everyone happy and push this one through.
Thank you. Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Chair. I support the officer's advice on this simply because of the things they've said, which I think we have to actually listen to, not what we think about certain things. I mean, it lies outside the confines of the village. It doesn't meet R1, 1 or 2. It's not an exceptional sign. It's not in the neighbourhood plan because it was withdrawn. There's no current housing needs survey. I find it difficult to go against the policies when they're written there, which tells us exactly these things. Why would we go against them when we've actually voted for them in the past? It does not make sense to let something go through outside the confines of a village which we all fight for, and against R1, 1 and 2, you just can't do that, because that's what you have to base your decisions on, not what people think and things like that. That doesn't come into it. Also, it's outlined anything that we build there, and as the officers said before, the agents should go away after this is defeated tonight and come up with another plan. It's that simple. So that's what they should do, and it's not for us to tell them how to do things. It's the other way round. That's what we're here for. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Champlin.
Thank you, Chairman. The National Planning Policy Framework makes it very clear that decisions on planning should be made in accordance with an up-to-date local plan, which we have, which includes policy outline, and provided that we can demonstrate that we have an adequate housing supply, which we can. So we must follow the rules. The rules say we must decide planning applications in accordance with our local up-to-date plan. This application is clearly against policy. There are opportunities that could be taken to bring it within policy. We've heard some of them, and I'll just mention a couple. It could be put forward as a rural exception site, and we could consider it as such. That would simply be a lot more affordable housing. There should be an up-to-date housing needs survey to provide hard evidence that there is a local need for this level of affordable housing. That wouldn't be necessary in the case of a rural exception site application anyway. Applicants can often negotiate with officers possibility of thinking of associated local facilities that might be enhanced or provided in order to support an application such as this. This isn't just about local views, which are ephemeral. It's about hard evidence supporting policy. To not refuse this application as it stands at the moment is against policy and is in danger of violation of the National Planning Policy Framework. And I'm sorry that was 3 when I said a couple, but you know, Chairman, as a man of Kent, a couple is any number between 2 and 5.
Thank you. Matthew, you wanted to say something?
Mr. Chairman, but I will all the same. I'd just like to say that as of tomorrow I will have been qualified 38 years. And throughout all of those years I have sat in umpteen council chambers and people have said to me, oh well, planning decisions, everything on their merits. It's a cliche, and as with most cliches, it's misused and abused by people. You have a local plan. You are expected to comply with that local plan. If you want to approve something, or indeed refuse something that is otherwise in accordance with the plan, then you should come up with some pretty cogent reasons. And just saying each application on its own merits is not good enough. If you approve this tonight, I will guarantee you that every developer who finds a site on the edge of the village is going to feed this back to the planners, who are going to have some difficulty saying to that developer, oh no, your site is different, because they'll turn around and say, well, why? There was nothing special about this site. You didn't ask for extra affordable housing. You didn't ask for a housing, a housing needs survey. There's plenty of people out there who want houses and will occupy these. You allowed it at Wheaton. Why won't you allow it here? You cannot turn around and say everything on its own merits. You have a local plan, you should be consistent about following that local plan. If you think the local plan is wrong, you are the planning authority, you adopt it, you change it.
Thank you. Councillor Adam, you were a seconder earlier on. Do you want to add anything?
No, Chairman. I think most of the things I've jotted down to say have already been said.
Okay, I'm going back to the proposal then, which will be the last person to speak when we go to the vote. Councillor Owen-Smith.
Yes, I have heard things today that I've been on the planning committee now for 6 years. We have spent an awful lot of money with two other authorities and a lot of blood. People don't remember, but with Councillor Chandler and Councillor James, we went on the joint core strategy. And we spent, is that £425,000 to have a plan. So that plan is where we can, it's our base to put, to agree or disagree. We cannot, we had that battle in 2014. So now we have in front of us something that is against policy. When it's against policy, we said we do agree with the parish and the developer if they can show us that it's a site who has enough evidence that we can go against policy. Now, can I ask a plain question? If we agree, if people, because the parish wants it and so on, for the parish could have a neighborhood plan, it's what I have asked all my parishes, and in the neighborhood plan they can say that site we want for development, and that we will not be here tonight. So secondly, where I am very concerned, we could have also have a statement of understanding to say that we don't have the need survey, but we are going to have what the village wants, the playing field, and also we are delivering X% more than the average for affordable housing. We will have something to go against affordable housing. Now, if we accept it like that, is that right that we will have a green planning on that side? So is there anything for the developer to come back and say, I just want 6 executive homes? And that is what you are against. Tonight, you are not having a site of exception where we all agree that if the village needs more housing, we would like to give the village. What you are doing is a blank check to a developer who can do after whatever he wants, and that is my understanding. And I will be willing to change my view if the developer is is willing to have what we ask from him, is to do something a bit better. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, we have a proposition that the application be refused, which has been seconded. All those in favour, please show.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
5.
6 for the chairman.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Right, those against.
6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5.
The application is refused. The next application is in Scaldwell, 0643.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a site within the village of Scaldwell, actually on the edge of the village of Scaldwell. It's a listed Grade 2 building. It's also part of the conservation areas. You can see by the photos the building, or the main building, is actually set back from the main road, and there's quite a lot of decent screening around the boundary. This is a retrospective application for the construction of a hydro pool, a log store and a new garden store. The proposals are all set back from the road, and again the site is well screened, so the visual impact from the main road is very limited. The log store is attached to a modern garage, and as you can see by the photos, it blends it well with the existing building, and the conservation officer has got no objections to this. The garden store is also attached to a modern structure, i.e. a garden room. And again, the conservation officer considers it's acceptable. What the main issue is really the hydro pool, where there's potentially some harm to the listed building. The conservation officer also considers, with appropriate landscaping, that it could be acceptable. Therefore, as you can see in condition 2, there is a landscaping scheme. However, we are also suggesting that this condition is amended. So if a landscaping scheme isn't submitted to the local planning authority and approved and implemented, then that hydro pool is removed. It's only acceptable if the landscaping is carried out. The Parish Council do not support the application, hence why it's at the planning committee. Therefore, the application is recommended for approval, subject to that alteration to condition 2. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Local member first, Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Chair. Whilst I understand the concerns and have sympathy with the Parish Council, I would accept officer's advice, as the conservation officer has not objected to the application, as it is in small scale and will not cause any significant detriment to the heritage asset. My support is conditioned on condition 2, which needs to be beefed up, and I welcome what the officer said about proper landscaping, not a dozen 3-foot trees down one side, and if it's not done correctly, the hydro pool is taken away. So on that basis, I would be happy to support officer's advice.
We're talking about those little bushes there being proper trees.
Yes, sir. Those large trees.
Proper landscaping. Councillor Living-Swift, sorry, we've got a proposal that we accept officer's advice. Do we have a seconder?
Yes.
Okay, would you like to speak now, sir?
Yes, I would. I think very briefly, Chairman. I know the site well. I know Scaldwell well. And I agree with the officer's conclusions, and as the District Council's heritage champion, I can see that the potential harm to the listed structure can well be mitigated by proper landscaping. So let's go with that, Chairman. That's my position.
Thank you. Councillor Irving-Swen.
Yeah, just seeing the pictures on, I realise I know the owner of that property. So I think it would be wise for me to abstain of voting.
Okay. So you declare an interest?
Yes.
Because you know the owner?
Through you, Chairman, our normal protocol would be that you would leave if you think it's a
Well,
interest, rather than sit here and abstain.
Yeah, it's for that. Unfortunately, it's when you show the picture in the middle of things that I realise.
Yeah, that's fine. But
Because I
you
didn't-
normally
Yeah.
you normally leave.
Yes, but I didn't want to live in the middle.
They're asking you to leave.
So do you want that to leave now?
Yes, I think that would be our normal protocol.
I'm sorry, I should have realised before.
Keep in view and I'll wave to you when we finish.
Just add something there, Mr Chairman. These things do happen.
Yes.
No member is criticised if suddenly they find out that there's an interest. But, you know, the important thing is, as the councillor has done, put your hand up, admit it, go.
Councillor Organ.
Yeah, it's just with regard to, I don't know how we enforce. Do we go back in 12 months' time? Do they have to have it signed off by us before? How does that work, officer advice?
Officers?
In a sense, I won't bore you with the wording because it's actually quite long-winded.
If it's anything like policy H3 and R1,
So-
I've had enough of it.
So one reason why I didn't read it out because I thought I didn't want to confuse matters, but basically what it will similarly say is if landscaping isn't submitted within a certain time frame, the hydro pool will need to be removed.
Okay.
And if the landscaping is not approved or is approved, then they've got to carry out that landscaping scheme in accordance with the approval within a certain period of time. If that's not carried out,
Fine. Okay, so it needs a sign off. Someone needs to physically go down. Lovely. Thank you, Chair. That's all.
Right. No other comments? We have who seconded that proposal? That's right. We have a proposal, the application be approved. It has been seconded, subject to the conditions. All those in favour, please show.
Full house.
A full house, everybody.
10. Oh, 9. 9.
Yes, 9. Next application is in Farm Zone 0720.
Thank you, Chairman. The application site relates to detached property from the edge of Farthing Zone. The building in question has been substantially extended in accordance with previous planning approval. And in approving that previous planning approval, planning committee resolved to impose a condition requiring the front and side elevation of the extended dwelling be rendered, whilst allowing for timber cladding to the rear. Having completed the work to the rear, the applicants now wish to continue the use of cladding to the side and front elevations to afford a uniform appearance to the extended property. Officers are aware that timber itself is not a typical local traditional material, and therefore would result in some conflict with policy EN42 and part of the village design guide, which sets out that advice regarding alterations and redevelopment of existing buildings using original synthetic materials. However, what does weigh in favour of the application is that the building has a relatively low profile, which together with the fact that it's well set back from the main frontage, and that it's partly screened by existing boundary wall and several trees within the site and adjoining the site, would significantly reduce the prominence of this building in this part of the village. In addition, the building itself is not of typical local vernacular and occupies a peripheral position at the edge of the village. We must also have regards to the fact that the village design statement doesn't identify the subject building as either an important building, nor does it identify it as forming an important open space, or forming part of important views in or out of the village. And as such, recommending this application be approved, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. We have two speakers. Mr. Stanton from the Parish Council. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Good evening, councillors. You're probably becoming quite familiar with this case. Originally, the applicant requested extensive development to meet their particular needs, and then planned to face the property with Northamptonshire stone and cover it with slate. The parish council and yourselves were quite happy with this. Then there came a series of amendments. Last August 2017, the applicant wanted to clad the property in Siberian larch, which the parish council objected to, and you agreed with the objection and refused the application. This building material is not in our village design statement, and we consider it unsuitable. Looking around to where the material is used locally, it has been used on the village school at Silverstone and the large pub development at Greens Norton. Large community buildings acting as a beacon in the community, and dare I say, looking for quirky architecture. It has been recorded in council notes that Siberian larch is similar to local stone. Siberian larch weathers to a silver grey matte dull finish, and as you know, Northamptonshire stone weathers to a honey brown textured finish. If we were looking for polar opposites of building materials, we would struggle to find a better example. It has been suggested that trees in the area will shield the building. The only tree of significance isn't on the applicant's land, doesn't have a TPO, and is deciduous. This argument, in our opinion, is therefore invalid. Previously, it's been argued that as the property is on the edge of the village, rules should be relaxed. Well, to be a pedant here, the property is 3 dwellings from the edge. If we consider dwellings on each side of the road from all 4 approaches, that's 2 times 3 times 4, that's 24 properties on the edge of the village, of a village of 80 dwellings. Over a quarter of the village is on the edge. So councillors, to ignore that quantity would simply be wrong. The edge of the village is its skin, like our own, giving style and character. The applicant already has 2 choices of building materials to finish the build approved by you. This council refused the Siberian larch cladding application last year. Nothing has changed since then, except you have published these mighty tomes outlining your rules and conditions on planning. On pages 38 and 39, you have listed the restricted infill village of Farthingstone as an other village, and stressed the importance of using a VDS in considering planning applications. And just one point that I just picked up on, you say there aren't any protected views. If you look on our village design statement, it's village view 12, and I think 13 is from this particular point. Our parish council hopes that you are able to be consistent and refuse this application. Thank you for listening, councillors. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. The second speaker is Miss McCloy, of the applicant. I hope I pronounced it right.
You do. If I can just refer to the pictures in mine, I'll wait till they come. Okay, so thank you for listening. Picture 1 shows the rear of our property and that of our neighbours. During a recent meeting of the parish council, it was mentioned that the wood finish to the rear looked pleasant, and it was suggested that it would be preferable to the white render that has been approved by committee on the front. After a discussion, it was stated by the parish council that to change our views now would be inappropriate. The picture shows it to be a close match with the stone, and this will only get better as the wood ages. It also shows that the house design is very different to that of our neighbours. It started as a 1970s bungalow and has been added to over the years. Unfortunately, the 2-storey extension carried out in the late 90s isn't very pretty, but we're trying to do the best with what we've got to make this more modern building look as good as it can. The wooden cladding design being horizontal helps to take your eye from the awkward roof design around the upper windows very successfully. In Farthingstone, you will see a hugely varied mix of building designs constructed in construction types and finishes. It's difficult to argue that wood isn't a synthetic material when you see how close colour matches to the local stone. We're also surrounded by trees and woodland, so we are able to reflect and respect nearby colours, textures and materials, as said in the village design statement. Despite what this parish council have previously stated, there is in fact a building which has a wooden clad exterior finish
in the village on Mayford Road, and the picture there demonstrates it against the local stone. The Daventry cottage properties gained full planning by this committee in 2011, with a committee summary stating that it did have regard to the village design statement. The precedent was therefore set, and the wooden cladding did fit within the village design statement, according to the committee on that application. Picture 3 illustrates the view at car height from the road. The house is surrounded on two sides by a high wall, and the picture that we've shown is actually the view that you have from a car or from walking. The house is surrounded, where there is a lower wall to these, there is a large horse chestnut tree blocking the sideline. The village design statement also talks about protecting the views towards Farthingstone. With a wood finish, it wouldn't be seen from the opposite ridge line, but if rendered, it would stand out like a sore thumb. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Ray, you wish to...
Just so everyone's clear, I wanted to explain what the photographs are that we've shown. So this is Google Earth as it was in 2011, and obviously a Google Earth camera is on top of a van, so that's actually higher than sort of walking past height. As the applicant said, it's largely screened because that's quite a high wall. The photographs that we're showing, that's a recent one, isn't it, from standing across the road. That's the front. I think we just wanted to be really clear that the photograph that you see with the wood is the approved rear elevation. They haven't done something they shouldn't have done. It's not retrospective. They're asking to carry that forward to the rest. And shall we clarify the parish council's comments?
The parish council made comments about the important views looking towards this property. Actually, the VGS does actually show properties to the south of the road, and viewpoints 12 and 13 look out in the opposite direction.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so that's the dwelling, and the viewpoints would go that way.
Okay. Right, there is no local member, I don't think, is there? No. Councillor Orger was the first person who put his hand up.
Thanks. Okay, I acknowledge that the timber cladding is not a typical local traditional building material, therefore its use would result in conflict with policy EN 42B. You know, the irony of the conversation we had previously about being compliant with policy and the conversation we're having now, I'd like some explanation how conflict in policy, some conflict with policy, does that mean it goes against policy? And if so, I need some understanding.
I'm sure we'll get an answer for you.
Obviously, we'll again go back to the act says it should be in accordance with the development plan, unless material consideration indicates otherwise. In this particular circumstances regarding policy, there was a clearly was contrary to policy. What officers were saying is like, please demonstrate what the exceptions are. Get clear still what they could possibly be, and advise that the applicant looks clearly what those exceptions were, because they are the material considerations. In this particular case, obviously, yes, there is some conflict with policy EN 42, but again, there are the material considerations in terms of the style of the building itself, in terms of the profile of the building, in terms of the screening which is already available.
Wasn't that present before?
That's all present before, but at the time...
But something's changed.
What's changed is that what members have before you now, that you have an understanding of what the material is like.
We didn't have an understanding before.
You didn't have a sample-ised material, and hence, since that approval, we now have before you, if we go back to the photographs, an understanding of what the material is like, having had the rear clad, so members can gauge or take a view on whether or not they now...
It does leave me, that we have quite a clear steer from legal on this, on policy, and then, 2 cases later, where I just
not the same policy then.
I mean,
It's policy. It's policy.
through you, Chairman, this is the surface treatment of an individual property, not allowing a 40 plus house development in open countryside. It's
That wasn't
sort
the
of
principle being taught. The principle was taught that if we want to change policy, we need to change policy.
No, there's a difference between this policy and the other policy. The other is bare bones policy, definitely.
Okay.
And this is policy, but it's not bare bones.
And you haven't got to comply with it.
No. Well, if you want to do that, you'd never alter the. You would let the officers decide every planning application. You wouldn't need members. Councillor Wesley next, then Councillor
Yeah, I was also a little bit confused about some conflicting policy there as well. Just on this, I think it makes a little bit much ado about nothing, if I'm honest. I think there's a certain amount of, I mean, I go down that road fairly regularly on my bicycle, and you can actually see that house fairly clearly from anywhere, if I'm honest. I don't think it's that hidden. That wall is quite right there, but in reality is when you're on the road, it's not. And you can, I think, pretty sure you can see it from the road, and I'm pretty sure you can, because I'd sort of take an interest in it, because I do look at it when I go past. But my personal view is that there is nothing wrong with that wood. I think that's an eminently attractive entrance to a village. It's really one of the nicest entrances to the village in the county. I think it's really, really pleasant. That house is already there and does what it does. It's got the garage bit outside it and the brickwork. It's a bit of a mishmash. It's a nice house, but it's not in keeping with the rest of the village anyway. And I see no issues with that wooden frontage. I'll go along with officers on this one.
Is that a proposal?
I'll propose that, yeah.
Okay. Do you have a seconder? Councillor James, would you like to speak now? You're down in three speaks time.
Thank you, Chairman. I thought this would be cut and dried, basically, in a matter of minutes, especially after the protracted discussion of the last application. Here's a case where a homeowner wants to take a property that's currently, in terms of its appearance, a bit of a mishmash, as Councillor Wesley said. It's a bit of this, a bit of that, a bit of something else. And they want to introduce an element of uniformity in order to give it its own design integrity. And if you look at the photographs of the back elevations there, it does. It owns itself. It looks good, I think, and it does fit in with the surroundings. It's in a peripheral location. It doesn't affect anyone's views at all, or any particular special views. So, I really think, as Councillor Wesley said, this is something and nothing, really. And I'm very pleased to second this application.
Thank you, Councillor James. Next two speakers are Councillor Swift and Councillor Evans.
So, having had a long day, I just wanted to go back. That application was in front of us a couple of years ago, and I remember the great lengths we were having about the wrangling, how we could make the wrangling. So we arrived to a compromise after a long discussion, and everybody seems happy. And what I do, in the wood at the back is not unpleasant, but it's not what normally you have houses made in our part of the world. And it's not a new design. So my view is that because we had agreed with the front and the rendering, and also the color had to be chosen. I mean, it wasn't, it had to be in accordance with the planners. I think the wood add another element of distortion to the appearance of the village. And it's not from the sublime to the ridiculous, but I think we had last time a good compromise, the back with wood, the front with what we agree, and I think the wood is changing what I thought was acceptable or not. So I think I am inclined to go against officer advice on that kind of position.
Thank you. Councillor Redden.
Thank you, Chairman. I went and did a site visit yesterday, and I had a job to find it. When you come down Mayford Road, which brings you past it that way, you can't see it at all. It's only when you get further along there and look back that you can actually see it, and you can't see it completely because of the tree. But then again, you're on quite a bendy road there, so you should be watching the road rather than looking over there. I'm really impressed by the picture from the back. I think it really does look nice, and I'd like to see all of it like that. So I have no problem with going off some advice. But I would like to say, Councillor Orger brought up in the 2 paragraphs from the end about that it would be in conflict with policy N42. But the last sentence in that says, however, I consider that there are other matters which should be weighed in the balance. And if you read the next paragraph, it overrides that bit with policy N42. So according to that, it will be minimal so that the proposal will be acceptable in planning terms. So I'm quite happy to go along with officers.
Thank you, Councillor Redden. Right, we have a proposal the application be approved, which has been seconded. All those in favour, please show.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Those against?
So 7, 3.
The application is approved. Right, last but not least is 0070 in Wheaton.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't propose to spend too much time on this, Chairman, other than to say that this relates to a detached property in Weedon. It's actually a retrospective application to regularise some departures from its previous approval. These details relate to window and door elements, an external flue and chimney breast. Resiting of the sitting room element has been moved slightly closer to the neighbouring properties, and although the change is materially different from the drawings, we don't consider that the proposed changes would give rise to any significant impact on the adjoining properties, and as such we consider them to be acceptable in the planning terms and be compliant with the Commission's other development plan policies. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. As you will have gathered, this is only on here because it's a councillor's application. Councillor's wife's application. No, that's not speaking. So that's the reason it's on committee. Councillor Organ?
How did it come to notice that? Was it?
Sorry?
How did the application come to notice? Was it formed?
There was an application on neighbouring sites. Yes.
And someone saw it?
Yes.
A planning officer saw it.
So somebody who's glassed up.
Well, no. let's put it correctly. A planning officer saw something that was wrong, and as it was a member of this council, a member of this committee who is not here today, it's important that it was done right and correct, and to be seen to be done so. And that's why the application's here.
I just think it's encouraging that we look at those things and as a matter of enforcement, because sometimes we are accused of not enforcing. I'm just encouraged that we have DDI
well, it was
officers.
more encouraging this encouraging to put in the application. Councillor Parker.
Yeah. I propose we accept officers' advice.
Thank you. The second one? Oh, whoever you want to take. Okay. All those in favour, please show.
10.
Unanimous. Thank you. That concludes